Hello, everyone. So, as you know, usually I don't cover international situations, what's happening, but particularly with this issue with Greenland and Donald Trump, it's spiraled really out of control in a way. And I don't know if Donald Trump's just trying to distance himself from Jeffrey Epstein by causing this big thing, because that's probably what he's trying to do, to try and get away from releasing the Epstein files, or he's trying to start some situation in Europe and, of course, in Greenland. But there's many different aspects to be talked about here. First of all, it's not right for any country to go around and threaten by military force. He hasn't ruled out military force using the United States military to take Greenland off Denmark, off the Greenlandic people too. And of course, if he does that, it's pretty much the end of the NATO alliance. Let's be fair, because Denmark is a NATO country, along with Greenland, of course, NATO territories. Yeah, Ireland is a neutral country, of course, but we still have a voice, and it's still important to stand up for country's sovereignty. Because I deeply believe in people's sovereignty. I deeply believe that Ireland belongs to the Irish. The same with Denmark belongs to the Danish people. The same with Greenland belongs to the Greenlandic people. I deeply believe that, and I think it's important to stand up for your values, because for years people have said in Ireland that Ireland doesn't belong to the Irish and stuff like that, and it's nonsense, and they call it racism, far right extremism, etc. But it's true that the Irish people had to fight 800 years for our freedom, so by God, it belongs to the Irish people, it doesn't belong to anyone else. But that's out of the that's out of the question, I suppose, for the moment. But I just wanted to make that reference. But it is a tense situation. Of course, then there is tariffs now being going to be put on the United Kingdom, and of course the European Union will respond. Not even just because of the United Kingdom, because France and Germany and Finland and Norway and Sweden, of course Denmark too. 10% tariffs going up to 25% by June. But Denmark is very determined not to budge, and they're rightly so. They shouldn't budge. Because the United States has a military presence in Greenland and stuff, and they literally could build more bases in Greenland if they wanted to. If they asked Denmark, they could literally put an extra, probably even 100,000 extra troops in Greenland if they really, really wanted to. It's not like it's Ireland, take for example, where Ireland's a neutral country outside NATO. If the United States wanted to do that, they couldn't do it because obviously neutrality, etc., they couldn't do it here. But in Greenland, they could literally build bases. They could literally put a whole US fleet off the coast of Greenland if they wanted to. Because it's a NATO territory, it's the same with even looking at prior agreements and stuff. They can look for licenses and stuff if they're worried about natural resources and stuff. But it's totally insane too, that this argument, and we'll go into the letter to the Norwegian Prime Minister in a second, because there's many things to be discussed here. But this argument that Russia and China will take Greenland is utterly insane too, because first of all, it's a NATO territory. So they literally would be picking a fight with the United States, and of course the United States is not going to let Russia or China, and they know this. Putin and I'm sure Xi Jinping knows this. If they're going to go to Greenland, the United States is going to respond. Like, the United States will intervene. There's no doubt about it. And of course, Canada will intervene too, because the United States is not going to have Russia take Greenland, even though Alaska and Russia is pretty much right beside each other over the other side of the Pacific. But the United States simply won't let that happen. So let's be fair on that. So Russia and China won't even attempt to do that, because the United States will respond very forcefully. But this letter that he sent to the Norwegian government, and particularly the Prime Minister of Norway, going on about the Nobel Peace Prize, and this is the thing. Listen to this part. Listen to this next part, because I was actually, I don't know what to tell you, but this sounds like what a child would say in school. But he's upset that he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, first of all, the Norwegian government has no say in the Nobel Peace Prize is up to an independent board. And Donald Trump's very upset that he didn't get it. Like, he's really just kicking up a fuss. And what he's pretty much saying, like, going by this letter that he's wrote to the Norwegian Prime Minister, that because he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, he wants Greenland. That's pretty much what he's saying with a straight face. So all that about security in China and Russia and stuff, it all seems to be bullshit. It's all because he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, which seems like what he's saying here. And of course, he's saying he's done it the diplomatic way, and I suppose he's not worried about peace anymore and stuff like that, which is very ominous for particularly a United States president. He shouldn't be saying that, of course. But because that's literally what he said, like, in the nicest possible terms, that's literally what he said. Because I didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, I have the right to take Greenland, which is the most insane argument you could even fathom. Because let's be fair, even to the Nobel Peace Prize, like even before he was got his inauguration and stuff, I think he only had 30 days or something into office. With the Nobel Peace Prize applications, without basically he had 30 days in his office before the applications and stuff for the Nobel Peace Prize finished up, if that makes any sense. So he probably would be likely to get this year's one if he would just wait, if he would just have some patience. He probably would get this year's one, but again, his actions don't. This is totally unacceptable. Really, really is totally unacceptable. The United States is going around and threatening their allies. There are people that's in NATO. I wouldn't mind if it's China and Russia. But just even speaking about Russia, they haven't even put any tariffs on Russia yet. They've seized some of those ships, of course, but they haven't done much else apart from that. But it's totally wrong. It really, really is. The whole situation is totally wrong. But as I said, and this is my suggestion, that the people of Greenland go to the polls and decide themselves once and for all who they want to be with. If they want to stay with Denmark, if they want to go with the United States, if they want to go out on their own. It's their own business. It's the people of Greenland's own business. And I think that's the only way to solve this. To ask the people of Greenland, because you and I, most of us are Irish, English, or from the United States or some other countries, Finland maybe in some cases too. It's not our business really in a way. What the people of Greenland want for themselves, but I'm sure the majority of people of Greenland are not appreciative of being threatened at gunfight and stuff by invasion and stuff like that. I'm sure if there were people in favour of before, there's none now, because he quite literally has shot himself in the foot, to use the phrase, because particularly with his wards and stuff and these just constant attacks on Denmark and Greenland and stuff. And of course, the threat of military action too. It's totally unacceptable too, particularly for the arsenal of the free world. It's supposed to be the arsenal of democracy, the United States of America. But so yeah, it'd be totally unacceptable if Donald Trump done anything. But we see what happens. But hopefully there'll be something worked out. But I don't think so. But I say we'll turn into a trade war. I will generally be honest. It will turn into a trade war. There'll be back and forth and back and forth. But I don't think there will. Not at the moment. I don't foresee that the United States will take Greenland now at the moment. I could be wrong, I might regret that, but I don't think they will. Because I think the tariffs, if the European Union puts it with retaliatory tariffs, that's going to literally shrink the United States economy. Like the tariffs that the European Union is talking about are absolutely insane. Like they would destroy the American economy. It would destroy half the American economy. It would and the same with the Irish economy too. Of course, the United States would then retaliate with tariffs, and it's just going to be constant back and forth. And the only people who win out of this is China and Russia, because the West is divided, and they're enjoying this. They have the popcorn out and they're watching this, and it's not right, because we should be united, because the world is a dangerous place, of course. And of course, China and Russia are not our friends too. They have their own views of the world. They have authoritarian views. We have a free-minded view of the world, of democracy, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom to protest. Of course, there's attacks in the West of that, but still, at the end of the day, we're not as bad as China or Russia yet, of course. But they can always go that way. But what I'm trying to say, we should be worried about that than fighting among ourselves. And I speak as a neutral country, but Ireland is a part of the West. It's a Western democracy. Believes in the ideas of the West. What I mean by the ideas of freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of speech, etc. That's Ireland's view in the world. But as a neutral country too, we have an obligation to speak up and to be courageous, because even taken from the Irish perspective for a second, when the British force came here and said, "This is our land now," get away, Irish people. This is our land. This is our this is our territory. When the force planted our country, every country has not. We experience that. We know what it's like when somebody comes in and takes our land, forcibly in a way too, and threatens us with gunfight, and then the plantation, the bringing in Scottish settlers and English settlers to take the land off the Irish and stuff and give it to them, and then the force. I suppose conversion of to Protestantism of a lot of people too, and a lot of people killed for Catholic beliefs and stuff back in Ireland. We could go on and on and on, But yeah, we understand it. Irish people understand it, and it's important to stand up for what's right. Thank you.